Major Shah, it's a straightforward question. Okay, in your experience, is a 6% reservation for Muslims in public institutions something that the community hopes for, desires, is motivated by?
Rishabh, basically, when anyone gets any reservation, irrespective of the caste, creed, religion, community, people feel very happy about it that, oh, I've got a reservation. I'll have an easy way out. But I have a slightly different take to it. As Allama Iqbal, who wrote Sare Jahan Se Acha as well, he said once, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So if you are strong enough, you will not need reservation, irrespective whether you come from wherever. But if you are given reservation, if you are given that pampering, you will not be able to stand tall. That is my personal take. And I feel if I am not fit enough to be a doctor, I'll give you an example. If you make me a doctor because of my reservation, that I have been, and when I cure you, when you have come to me as a patient, I'll give you some wrong medication. I'll put your life at stake. It'll be very dangerous. If I do not deserve something, but I'm been given that, I'm not capable of that, but I'm been given a concession.
But Major Shah, I know it's a long-winded argument, and I want to register it because there'll be people watching the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the argument for and the argument for is that yes, meritocracy is the most important thing because exactly doctors and lawyers and space scientists and all can't be on the basis primarily of an identity. But the argument is that you have to empower people because the entrance exam is not the same. Somebody who's had the opportunity of a better primary and secondary education, who has had the luxury of tuition, who has the monetary resources to provide for coaching classes, that person has an advantage in giving that exam. So it's not a level playing field, and the quotas are supposed to level the playing field. Then you have what Atar Zia pointed out is the creamy layer phenomenon, that you level the playing field for how many generations? If you become a UPSC IS officer, okay, is the next generation also deprived? Do they also not have this? They do not get opportunities. So it's a long, complex rope. It's a complex argument. But in essence, you're hearing a conversation that at least the three people who are with us, they are not going gaga. They are not going, where is the polling station? Let me get there tonight because the Congress is going to be offering us a quota. Now, let me ask a specific question. Major Shah, in 2014, A.K. Antony was asked to file a report on why they think the Congress performed really, really badly. And it was, remember, 2019 they were used to it. 2014 was a shock to the system. Worst ever performance of the Congress party ever in the history of India. And in that report, he specifically mentioned that their leaders started talking about a Muslim quota, which many suspected they had no intention of giving, but they alienated the Hindus because they were talking about it 24/7. Now, he wrote that in his report, which has been widely discussed upon years ago, 10 years ago. So, is this conversation easing communal divides, or is it polarizing us more?
Could I request your back-end team to mute everyone?
Yeah, please.
I thought that I have been muted. No.
Atarji, they're going in rotation, so there's no disturbance. That's all. The team will unmute you. Don't worry when you speak. Major Shah, please go ahead.
So, Rishabh, see, I feel if you give me reservation, and I come from the army background, so I'll give you that example. And because of reservation, I get through the army. This is an example I'm quoting. I'm not capable enough, but I've got that concession. I'll get into action, I'll get killed, and I'll get my men killed as well. It'll be unpardonable, absolutely. Now, if you want to get people on the level playing field, provide them education. There's no education. There's lack of education in many places which are backward, be it Muslim areas. My father is doing a lot of work for education, not only for Muslim, for Indians, for people, because our country today, our country overall, we are the fourth largest economy in the world. We are going to be a superpower. But what stops us behind are two things. One is lack of discipline. As Indians, whether people like it or not, I will call it very bluntly. We lack discipline overall, not you and me, but overall. Secondly, lack of education in our country. Many people earlier, it's improving, thankfully. We are improving, we are getting there. But because many Indians, unfortunately, are not well educated. When they would not be well educated, they would not get good jobs. Because they would not get good jobs, they would not get good salaries. When they would not get good salaries, they would obviously not be able to educate the next generation.
Yes.
And that is the reason that was
so for people watching the broadcast, I'm sure most of you already know. So Major Shah's father, Lieutenant General Shah, of course, was Lieutenant General in the Indian Army. He was, Ms. Ren mentioned AMU, he was the Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University. His uncle, of course, is the famous Nasiruddin Shah. Major Shah, how would you describe yourself? You've been in the armed forces. Now, of course, you're working and you're earning a living. Would you describe yourself as a middle-class Indian Muslim?
Yes, Rishabh, I would call myself a middle-class Indian Muslim. I would. I mean, irrespective of because I believe in one thing. इंसान किस खानदान में पैदा होता है ये जरूरी नहीं है. इंसान खुद क्या करता है ये बहुत जरूरी है.
Okay.
So I go by because ancestry is nothing to boast about. It's something to live up to. So I am trying my best.
I agree. You got big shoes to fill. I mean, Lieutenant General Zamiruddin and uncles, Nasiruddin, big shoes to fill. But the reason I mentioned that is because Major Shah is not a deprived individual. He doesn't come from a deprived family, but nor is he a person saying that tomorrow I'm roaming around my Ferrari. He's very much having to work hard to earn a living after having served the country in uniform. So he's contributing to the fabric of the economy. So the perspective puts a lot of relativism into what we're discussing. Major Shah, are Muslims in this country ready, perhaps even anxious, awaiting things like reform in education, things like opportunities in other fields? Because when we talk about madrasa reform, when we talk about legal reform, it becomes a very strangely, for some people who claim to represent Muslims in this country, a very touchy subject. They don't even want to talk about it. Madrasa reform, don't interfere. Legal reform, don't interfere. When it comes to civil code reform, stay away. Why?
Right, Rishabh. I just read a small couplet from Majrur Sultanpuri who said, मैं तो अकेले ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. So the very fact is, we have to bring a change, and even if people are not ready, they have to be prepared to be ready. I'll give you an example of, you mentioned about General Shah, who the former Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, former Deputy Chief of Army Staff. He's now the Pro-Chancellor of a very prestigious university. He has taken up a mission of starting schools, and he has started some very successful schools. He's taken up a mission on education of our countrymen, of our little boys, of Indians, irrespective of whichever religion, caste, creed, or region they come from. So the very fact is they have been a start at least in reforms in education. Unless we have reforms, we need reforms. The very fact that we have to look into our own collars, we have to do a self-introspection, and we have to see where we lack. Otherwise, we'll remain behind all the time. So Muslim community definitely needs to need reforms. I totally agree with that.